So vertex form is f of x equal to ax minus h squared plus k. So number 13 on your formula chart. There are three letters. What are the three letters again?
A, H, and K.
A, H, and K tell me different things about the transformations of this parent function. If we look at A, there are three options within A that this could be. If that A value is negative, that means I have a negative in the very, very front of my equation. What's going to happen to my parabola?
It's going to go positive, I guess?
Well, the parent function is always positive, so what's it going to do?
It's going to go down. It's going to be negative.
It's going to be an x-axis reflection because it's going to make a sad parabola. This makes a reflection in the x-axis. That makes our sad parabolas. Little sad parabola. Cry, cry, cry. Sad parabola. But another option for A is if A is a Dolly number. What kind of numbers are Dolly numbers?
Big on top, small on bottom.
Big on top, small on the bottom. What transformation happens when I use a Dolly number on the outside?
It's going to be a stretch.
Vertical stretch by a factor of, you may shorten vertical and horizontal now to V and H. I approve.
Yeah.
By a factor of whatever number is there in front of it. Whatever the A value is what exactly it's going to be stretching by.
Oh.
Vertical stretch. The last option for my A value is if A is a J-Lo. What kind of numbers are J-Lo?
They're big on bottom.
Small on top, big on bottom.
Small on top, big on bottom. And what do the small on top, big on bottom numbers do to my graph?
Vertical shrink.
Vertical shrink. It's our vertical squish. I wish it was the word squish, but it's just not.
Squish.
By a factor of whatever number it is. Whatever number is there in your equation is what you include as your factor. It's what every single number is being multiplied by. Here, I'll scoot it up for my friends who can't see what I'm writing at the bottom. So we have three things that come from the letter A. Three transformations. We will know if it flips over the x-axis, a reflection in the x-axis. That happens if the A is negative. If the number is a Dolly number, big over small, it's going to vertically stretch it. If it's a J-Lo number, it's going to vertically shrink it. Now it might be a negative Dolly number. That's a reflection and a stretch. It might be a negative J-Lo number. That's a reflection and a shrink. Still getting wider and narrower like we talked about last time. That's A. A has a lot of stuff going for it. Where is the H value?
Inside the parentheses after the X.
After the X, it's added or subtracted afterwards, and it is specifically inside the parentheses. What do we know about things that happen inside the parentheses?
Horizontal translation.
They're horizontal, and they're inside the parentheses, and they're opposite. So we will say that these on the inside are going to be a horizontal translation. It's going to let me know how much it moves to the right or to the left. If in that parentheses you see a minus H, whatever H is, since it's inside its opposite, which direction is this going to move? To the right or to the left?
Right.
To the right, to the right. Oops. To the right. If there's a plus H on the inside of parentheses, which direction is it going to move? To the left. Because it's horizontal and inside and opposite. Hi-O is correct. That's what we learn from the H that's in the vertex form. It's subtracted or added on the inside of the parentheses. What letter is left?
K.
K. K is added or subtracted at the very end, which means it's on the outside. Is it going to be horizontal or vertical?
Vertical.
It's going to be some sort of vertical translation. We just have to figure out which way. If you have a positive K value, like you're adding something, which way do you think it's going to go?
Up.
Up. Vertical is always normal. Vertical goes the way you want it to. So if I'm subtracting a number K, where's it going to go?
Down.
Down. That's it. Those are all the transformations you're really going to be using. Yes, we did talk about horizontal stretches and shrinks and reflections over the y-axis, but those three we don't focus on as much because we don't use them as often. These are the ones you'll see in vertex form the most often. You're going to have your reflections, your vertical stretches and shrinks, your translations right and left, and your translations up and down. Those are the ones you're going to be able to see straight up from vertex form, not having to graph it at first. You look at the equation, you tell me what's happening, then we check our work in Desmos. Now, the only other thing we need to write down here is this little starburst down at the bottom. Now, this is called vertex form because what do you think it immediately tells me?
What the vertex is.
Yeah, it immediately tells me what the vertex is. I don't have to graph this in Desmos to be able to tell you what the vertex is. The vertex is two of the letters we're using in vertex form.
A-N.
It is the opposite of H, comma K. Opposite of H, comma K. Because the H is on the inside, right? So I always have to use the opposite.
Oh, so
The axis of symmetry is, again, immediately from the whole equation here because it should go through the vertex.
yeah,
It's always going to be x equal
number, opposite.
the opposite H. Because that's the x value of my vertex. So these two numbers should always be the same. The number used in the axis of symmetry and the x value of the vertex should always be the same. But what's nice about questions like this is, yes, I can look at the equation and tell you what H and K are, or the opposite of H and K, but you can also throw it into Desmos and poke it, and it tells you the same thing. So you can always check your work. You can always also check your work with axis of symmetries, because what should that line do?
Cut it in half.
Cut it directly in half. Make symmetrical pieces. So all day today, you should not ask me if you have the question right. You should know how to check it. Am I correct? Cool. Let's go see what problems might look like. Your homework and the questions we're going to ask you are going to look exactly like this. On the inside, we want to compare the graph of the function to the graph of f of x equal x squared. That's my parent function. It's back.
Yay!
We can always graph it later, but first, let's try just by looking at vertex form what's going to happen here.
Okay.
Comparing what I've highlighted in red to the b of x function here, what numbers have changed in the equation?
3 and
3,
4.
4.
There's a 3 right here
And a 4.
and a 4 right there. All right, that 3, is it in the spot of A, H, or K?
A.
A. How did we know that?
Because it's right in front of the x outside of the parentheses.
Yeah, it's on the outside of the parentheses. It's in the very front. It takes the place of A. Now, that's a positive number, so is this going to reflect over the x-axis?
No.
No.
Nuh-uh.
Is it a Dolly Parton number or a
Yeah.
J-Lo number?
Dolly.
Dolly Parton numbers are going to be my vertical stretches by...
factor of 3.
Look, I'm not even going to make you write it out anymore. You just get to put check marks and circle the things that you need. You're welcome.
Thank you
Now-
very much.
Now that 4 that's on the inside, what letter is that? A, H, or K?
H.
H. It's in the spot of the H, right?
Yeah.
Now the H, based on the front of your notes, is going to tell me what information? Based on the front of your notes, what does H tell me?
Horizontal translation.
Horizontal translations. I see +4, so what direction is this going to go?
Up 4.
Ooh, horizontal's
Oh,
up?
sorry. Left 4.
It's going to go left 4 units because I see a plus H in my equation. And I just compared that to the front. If we look at number 2, what do you notice about number 2, the w of x function? What's in the very front?
Negative.
Negative. If that a value is negative, it's a sad parabola.
The x-axis.
So it is going to be a reflection over the x-axis. That's because it's negative right here. Now I also have a -1 on the inside and a -9 on the outside in the back. Subtracted. What does the blue arrow point to? Is it A, H, or K? H. H tells me my horizontal translations. Is this one going to go to the left or to the right?
To the right, I guess.
To the right. How many units?
1.
1. Absolutely.
Forget the I's at the back
Yeah.
of the units. It's just units.
1 unit. On the number 9 that's subtracted at the back, what is that going to do to my graph?
It makes it go down.
Yeah.
What is the words for go down?
Vertical translation down 9 units.
Absolutely. It's a vertical translation down 9 units. Yes.
Wouldn't there be a vertical stretch?
So that's a great question. Vertical stretches are when your A values are Dolly or J-Lo. What is the A value right now?
1/1.
Is that either a dolly or a J-Lo?
No.
No, so there's no stretch or shrink when you have a 1/1 because it's not dolly and it's not J-Lo. It's like a Gumby. Like Gumby's just kind of like a stick. So there nothing happens when Gumby's there. Okay, I guess whatever. But don't take my word for it. Can you check this in Desmos and make sure it actually reflected, moved down, and moved right? Open up your Desmos and type that in because there's no way that we're going to get this wrong if we're looking at it visually. So take a second and type that in, and then once you got it, try number 3 and number 4. I'm going to let you do both 3 and 4. I'll give you a hint on number 3. I'm going to point at the things with some arrows that you need to tell me about. Don't say it out loud, but what did 1/8 do when it's multiplied in the front? And what did -6 do when it's inside the parentheses? Keep thinking. All right, my friends, so since there's a 1/8 multiplied in the front, that's going to be one of my stretches or shrinks because it's the A value. But since it's a J-Lo number, am I going to stretch or shrink?
Wait, shrink?
Yeah. I'm going to shrink. My J-Los are my shrinks into by a factor of 1/8. Ooh, now I'm using the wrong color scheme. It's fine. I fixed it. Okay. Our J-Los are the ones that shrink it. We don't have to flip this number over because horizontals are the only ones I flip over. Now, what is the red arrow pointing to? What is that number? A, H, or K?
H.
H. H is always my horizontal translations. Which direction is this going to go? Horizontally, it's going to go up?
It's gonna go left.
No, horizontally, side to side.
Right.
It's going to go to the right 6 units. But you should be able to check this. Did it get wider and move to the right?
Yes.
Cool. That's how we know we're correct. So when you check it, you would notice that it didn't move up or down, that it just went bigger or smaller. That'll help you remember to do the words right. On number 4, how many things are different in number 4 from the parent function?
It doesn't have an A.
Doesn't have an A value, so it's not going to be any of the stretches or shrinks, but it does have an H.
Yeah, and what's a K?
And a K. The H part always tells me a horizontal translation. Since this is +7 in there, which direction is it going to go?
Left.
Left 7 units. And since it says +10 at the end,
You can go up.
that's
10 units.
that's my K is a +10, so it should be moving up 10 units. Now again, you can always check this into Desmos because in Desmos, you'd have some sort of parent parabola because you'd type that in. This is going to be a real bad sketch. And then you'd have this that moved up 10 units and to the left 7, so it would be something that looked like this. The shape would be exactly the same. It would just be moved up 10 and left 7. Right? You can just look. There's no reason to get these wrong ever. That's fair. If you don't have your words memorized, or if you made a typo, those are the only ways you can get these wrong. But y'all are gonna have your words memorized, and you're not gonna do any typos.
What if we forgot how to do it?
Hey, look at number 5. In number 5 and 6, did I give you an equation this time?
No.
No. What did I give you?
Words.
I gave you words, and it says using vertex form, write a quadratic function that applies the following transformations to the parent function. Okay, we're gonna name our function g of x.
Yes.
And we have to fill in the A, the H, and the K
Yes.
to make this one work. Now, this part right here says a reflection across the x-axis. What do I have to do? What will be negative?
The number in front of the parentheses, that one.
Cool. There's my negative. Do I need to multiply it by any number?
No.
No, because it didn't say to stretch or shrink it.
Nope.
How do I move this up 4 units?
+4 after the parentheses.
+4 after the parentheses, because that's my K. How do I move this right 5 units? Where?
After the X.
Inside the parentheses.
Inside.
After the X.
And you know what? We can always check this to make sure that this flipped over and moved to the right and moved up. So please do that right now before we go on too far. Please make sure that in Desmos, this actually graphs what it verbally says it does. Because there's no reason to get this wrong. It should flip over, move up, and move right. Check it.
Yep, it did.
negative right there?
Yes, that's the reflection across the x-axis. Once you've checked it, try number 6, please. And then check your work on that one too.
No.
Here, I'll rewrite the formula so everyone has it and they know where it's coming from. Here's g of x equal to a x minus h squared plus k. So all you have to do is figure out what the a, h, and k are and plug in those numbers. the A, the K. What you mean? Are you checking to make sure? Well, you forgot your negative in the front. That's a typo.
Oh no.
Because it didn't flip over yet. And now once you put that negative in there, it flipped over, it moved up, and it moved right. Correct? There you go. You did it. Try the next one.
Okay, now.
Number
so you gotta
6.
do the
Here, I'll
opposite
set
of
up the
that,
beginnings
so-
of it.
Hey,
It
teacher's
says,
teaching. The teacher's teaching.
it says g of x equal x. We need to pick A, H, and K. To do a vertical stretch by a factor of 5, is that A, H, or K? A. So that means a 5 is going to go in the A spot. Then I want to translate it down 7. Oop, that's not a highlighter. Down 7. Where do I put something to do down 7?
Minus 7.
Minus 7 after the parentheses. Cool. Then what about going to the left 2 units?
Add to,
Right.
plus
+2,
yeah,
yeah.
right there.
Very cool. And did you check this in Desmos to make sure it got narrower, moved to the left and down?
Sure.
Did it do it?
Yes.
Cool, we're good. So we can go from the equation to the words, or from the words to the equation. It's really pretty cool. Yay. Now let's look at the last 4. The last 4 ask you to find the vertex and the axis of symmetry for each of these. This is another something that we can check in Desmos, because Desmos will tell us the vertex, and we can type in our axis of symmetry to make sure it works. So what I need for you to do is remember that the vertex is always the opposite of H, comma K, and that the axis of symmetry is always x equal whatever the opposite of H is. I'm using the shorten for OPP for opposite, sorry. Okay?
You good?
Which means that for this one, what numbers are H and K that make the vertex?
3 and 7.
Where did you get 3 and 7 from?
Well, because you have to use the opposite of H, which is 3, and then you have to use K, which is 7.
Absolutely. 3 is inside the parentheses, that's H, but I saw minus 3 inside the parentheses, so did I use minus 3? No,
No.
I used plus 3.
Yes.
Then the K is on the outside, so it's 7. Which means what's the equation for the axis of symmetry?
X equals 3.
These should always be the same. The x value of the vertex and the axis of symmetry are the same number. Now, if you don't tell me x equals, I'm going to count it wrong, because that's just a random number. I need x equals. And you know what? We're going to check our work again. Type this one into Desmos, because Desmos will tell you the coordinates associated with the vertex. Is it 3, 7?
Yeah.
Cool. Now I want you to type this in. Type in x equal 3. And if it does not cut your parabola absolutely in half, it is not correct. So please type that in to make sure that it actually does cut my parabola in half. You should know how to check your work so you can answer 8, 9, and 10 and check your work before we talk again. All right, my friends, so I hear a bunch of you guys getting to the one I want you to. So let's go over the vertex and axis of symmetry for 8. What did y'all get for the vertex? -5 and -6, because remember it has to be the opposite of the H that you see. There's a +5 in there, which means your H is a -5. That makes the axis of symmetry x equal -5. We check our work. It should be exactly what we see in Desmos. What's the vertex for number 9?
No, wait, 8, 12. 8, 12.
8, 12. It's the opposite of what you see. So since there's a -8 in there, you put +8. It's very obvious that we did not check our work, because there's no way to get this wrong if you type in the equation. Which means the axis of symmetry should be x equal 8. It goes right through the center of that parabola.
At the end.
Number 10.
Adding 4 and 2.
2, 0.
Remember, we're looking for H and K. This is A. This one's H. Where's K?
There is no K.
There is no K, so it's 0.
So 2, 0. -2, 0.
-2, 0 is good. -2, 0 is my vertex, which means my axis of symmetry is x equal -2. Now 100%, you should have gotten this right, because you can check them in Desmos.
I checked them all.
Perfect.
Finished.
Perfect. So the vertex and the axis of symmetry, very easy to check in the equation and from Desmos. Our goal today is to be able to talk about transformations in vertex form, and to be able to identify the vertex and axis of symmetry, which we can.